I stared out the window as the miles rolled by. When we pulled up to the house, my things were still scattered everywhere. Some bags had been ripped open. My books lay across the yard like garbage. My winter coat was half buried in dirty snow. A framed photo from my graduation, the glass was cracked right across my face. I didn't walk to the door. I stepped into the yard and started picking up my stuff. A moment later, the front door opened. My mom stood there holding a coffee mug. She looked irritated. My dad appeared behind her, smirking. "Well, look who's back," he said. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just said, "I'm here for my things." That's it. My sister leaned out from behind the door. "You're lucky we didn't burn it," she said. That was it. That was the moment something inside me shut down for good. I dropped the bag I was holding and walked straight toward the steps. "You're dead to me," I said. My mom rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." "No, I'm serious. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't ask for money, favors, nothing. From today, you don't exist to me." My dad laughed and said something like, "You'll come back when you need something." I didn't answer. I turned around, loaded the rest of my things into the truck with my grandpa, and we drove off. The whole ride home was silent. Not awkward. Just finished. Like the last page of a book I never wanted to read again. When we got back, my grandma helped me unpack in the guest room. Some of my stuff was ruined. One bag had a hole and water had soaked through my notebooks. But I kept them anyway. As a reminder. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my grandparents drinking tea. Grandma was doing a puzzle. Grandpa had a baseball game on in the background. It was peaceful. And even though I had no apartment, no savings, and no idea what came next, for the first time in years I didn't feel small. I felt free. 4 days later, on January 4th, something happened that would change everything again. But this time in the best way. I hadn't realized how much I'd been waiting for another hit, until the silence started to feel strange. No calls. No texts. No angry voicemails. Nothing. After what they did, I expected another explosion. But days passed, and it was like they had disappeared. I couldn't relax. On the morning of January 4th, I woke up before sunrise. Wide awake with nowhere to be. I sat on the edge of the guest room bed, staring at the wall, and said out loud, "Enough." I opened my laptop and started applying for jobs like it was the only thing that mattered. I didn't care if it was boring, physical, repetitive, or weird. I needed money. I needed independence. I needed something to pull me out of the hole I'd been stuck in. One job stood out. Nothing glamorous, but something about it felt right. A small local property management company needed a part-time office assistant. No college degree required. Paid every week. Organized chaos, that's our style, the listing said. I sent my resume. An hour later, I got a response asking if I could come in that afternoon. The office was tucked between a nail salon and an insurance agency. The owner, Laura, looked like she'd been awake since the 90s. Messy bun, 3 coffees on her desk, fast talker. Within 15 minutes, she asked about spreadsheets, difficult tenants, and whether I could handle a ringing phone while filing. I said yes to everything. She handed me a form and said, "You start tomorrow." I walked out holding a folder, completely stunned. I hadn't even told my grandparents I was interviewing. When I got home and showed them the job offer, Grandma made hot chocolate and said, "I told him you'd land on your feet." Grandpa grinned and said, "First win of the year, kid." It was a small job, but it felt like the first real thing I had done for myself in a long time. What I didn't expect came 2 days later. It was lunchtime. I was sitting in the cramped break room eating a peanut butter sandwich when Laura walked in, scrolled through her phone and said, "Weird question, but are you looking for a place to stay?" I looked up mid-bite. She explained that her aunt had just moved into assisted living and left behind a small guest house on her property, a converted garage with its own entrance, kitchenette, and bathroom. "It's sitting empty. Rent is cheap. And you seem like someone who needs a reset," she said. She texted me the address. I went to see it after work. It wasn't fancy. Wood paneling, an old futon, a space heater that looked like it came with a warning label. But it was mine. Or it could be mine. The first space in years that wouldn't be shared with crying kids, or the constant echo of guilt. I told my grandparents that night. They were supportive immediately, Even though Grandma got teary-eyed, Grandpa said, "We'll help you fix it up, but don't rush. You've got a home here as long as you need it." For the first time I thought, I might actually be okay. But just as things were settling, something weird started happening. My uncle stopped by that weekend. We sat on the porch while Grandpa grilled in the back. He leaned in and said, "So your mom's been calling people, telling stories. Bad ones." I frowned. "What kind of stories?" "She told Aunt Dana you're mentally unstable. That you've been having episodes." I laughed. Thought he was joking. "She told Cousin Ruth you stole from them. Said that's why they threw you out. Not because of a fight, but because you were taking money and lying about it." I stared at him. "She's rewriting the whole thing," he said. "And she's not being quiet about it. She wants everyone on her side." I should have been furious. But honestly, I just felt tired. "That I don't think she's finished," my uncle said. "Just be careful." I believed him, because the next night I got a message that changed everything. Not from my parents, from a bank. Apparently my mom had tried to access my old account, one I hadn't used in months, and she wasn't on it. I got a security alert. Unusual login attempt blocked. That's when I realized this wasn't about pride. They weren't angry. They were desperate. And they were planning something. The email came through at 10:14 p.m. on a Thursday. I remember because I was already in my pajamas half asleep when my phone lit up. Unusual login attempt blocked. If this wasn't you, please secure your account immediately. It was from my old bank account, the one I'd emptied before leaving my parents' house. There was maybe $7 left in it. Nobody else should have had access. But my mom used to have the login saved on her tablet. I stared at the screen for a full minute, toothbrush in my hand, foam gathering at the corner of my mouth. Then it sank in. She wasn't done. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. They weren't angry that I left. They were panicking because I was gone. Because the person who did all the quiet work, paying bills, cooking, cleaning, babysitting, had stopped existing in their world. I changed all my passwords that night. Not just the bank. Everything. Email, credit apps, social media. Then I sat on the edge of my bed and realized my hands were shaking. Not from fear. From exhaustion. The next morning I went to work like nothing happened. Filed leases. Printed invoices. Answered calls. But underneath the calm surface my thoughts kept circling back. What were they planning? 2 days later I found out. My cousin Ellie texted me a screenshot from Facebook. It was my mom's post. A picture of their front porch decorated for winter. The caption read, "Some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. But family always forgives eventually." Hundreds of comments. Her friends wrote things like, "You raised her right. Don't blame yourself. She'll come around." My sister commented with a laughing emoji and wrote, "She's learning the hard way." I didn't even feel angry anymore. Just that hollow numbness when you realize someone is rewriting the story of your life in public. And half the audience is nodding along. The next morning my uncle came by for coffee. He told me my mom had been calling relatives saying I'd lost it, that I'd stolen money and lashed out. According to her version, they'd had no choice but to remove me from the house. I didn't even know what to say. But then something strange happened. Something they didn't see coming. People started calling me. An old neighbor messaged saying she'd seen how I used to take care of the house, the kids, everything. That nobody believed my mom's story. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years sent a long message saying she'd always known they treated me differently. Even my mom's own brother texted, "You're better off. Don't look back." Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was brewing. Then late Saturday night I got another message from Rosa, the neighbor who had filmed the first video of them throwing out my stuff. She wrote, "You might want this too." I didn't send the whole thing last time. I hesitated for a second before tapping the file. It was longer this time, maybe 4 minutes. The first part was what I'd already seen. My dad tossing out my things. My mom complaining about how ungrateful I was. But when the camera kept rolling, the tone shifted. My dad said, "She won't last long without us. She's too soft." My mom laughed. "Give her a month. She'll come crawling back." Then my sister's voice, colder than I remembered. "Either she comes back or she disappears. Either way, problem solved." Rosa must have zoomed in because I could see their faces clearly. Smirking. Relaxed. Like they were discussing the weather. I watched it 3 times. Then I saved it in 3 different places. My laptop. A flash drive. And the cloud. When I looked up, my grandma was standing in the doorway. She didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, "If they show up here again, I'll be the one to answer the door." I didn't know how soon that would matter. Because less than 24 hours later, they did show up. Unannounced. Angry. And not just to talk. It was one of those quiet winter Sundays where everything feels paused. Grandma was baking banana bread. The whole house smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. Grandpa was in the garage tinkering with something that probably didn't need fixing. I was on the couch, scrolling through listings for used furniture, planning what I'd do with the guest house once I moved in. Felt safe. Like real life was finally starting to show up again. I hadn't thought about my parents or my sister all morning. It was becoming easier. Not forgetting. Just letting go. Then came the knock. 3 sharp bangs on the front door. No doorbell. No text. Just that demanding kind of knock that said they still thought they had the right to show up. I looked at my grandma. She froze, holding a dish towel, her face already knowing. I peeked out the window. There they were. My dad stood with his arms folded, pacing in front of the porch like he was the one waiting on someone else. My mom held her phone and a coffee cup, scanning the house like she expected someone to come crawling out. My sister leaned against the porch post in a designer hoodie, chewing gum and scrolling her phone. Her kids were in the back seat of the SUV, unsupervised. Again, I stepped back from the window and said, "They brought the circus." Grandma didn't say a word. She walked back into the kitchen and picked up the bread pan like nothing happened. But Grandpa had heard the knock too. A minute later, he was opening the door. He didn't invite them in, just stood there blocking the entrance. I stayed out of view listening. My mom was the first to speak. "We need to talk to Michelle. It's time to let all this go. We're family. What happened was unfortunate, but we can't keep holding grudges. She needs to help out." Then my sister chimed in like this was some group meeting. "Yeah, we leave Friday. We've got tickets to Aruba. All she has to do is watch the kids." That's not a huge ask. She really said that. Like I hadn't just cut them off for dumping my life into the snow. Like none of it ever happened. Like I was some employee returning to a shift I forgot I was scheduled for. Grandpa's voice was low but firm. "You've got a lot of nerve showing up here like this. You think after everything you said, everything you did, Michelle's going to babysit your kids again?" My dad started stepping forward, but Grandpa moved an inch closer. "Turn around and leave." My mom scoffed. "You're letting her manipulate you. We're just asking for a little support. She's still part of this family." "No, she's not," Grandpa said. "Not yours anyway. Now get off my property before I call the cops." My sister muttered something under her breath and walked toward the car. My dad shook his head like he was disappointed in us. And my mom, she looked directly at the doorway, probably hoping I was standing behind it. She said, "She'll come around. She always does." Then they got in the SUV and drove off, tires spitting snow as they peeled out. When Grandpa came back inside, he just shrugged and said, "Like cockroaches. They only show up where they think they can take something." I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. We ate banana bread. Grandma flipped on one of her detective shows. At some point, she looked over at me and said, "They're going to keep trying. That kind of entitlement doesn't die overnight. But you're stronger now. They can't touch you anymore." She was right. Later that night, I emailed Laura and said, "I'll take the guest house by February 1st. She wrote back within the hour, "It's all yours." Grandpa offered to drive over next weekend to help patch the roof and fix the broken cabinet under the sink. Grandma already started packing kitchen towels and some old plates she insisted I take. It didn't feel like running away. Felt like arriving. I kept Rose's video, not because I wanted revenge, but because it reminded me how far I'd come. They could lie, twist stories, play the victim all they wanted. Let them. I was done playing along. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't just have an escape. I had a beginning. The following weekend, Grandpa and I drove over to the guest house with a toolbox and a bag of snacks Grandma had packed, just in case. We spent the whole afternoon patching a leak in the corner of the roof and tightening the door hinges. It wasn't glamorous. The space was small and smelled faintly of paint and dust. But it was mine. When we were done, we sat on the front steps sharing a sandwich. Grandpa handed me a spare key he'd quietly made at the hardware store without telling me. "It's not much," he said, "but it's a start." And it was. It was the first place I'd ever have that wasn't borrowed, conditional, or weighed down by guilt. When we pulled into the driveway back home, Grandma was standing at the door with 2 boxes already labeled Michelle's Kitchen. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to.